Hello and welcome to the channel. This is Crypto Daddy, and this is going to be the third episode of Under the Influencers. First of all, we just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in with us today. This was pre-recorded from yesterday, but just wanted to throw a little quick message on here to say thank you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video. It's the only thing I'm going to ask of you. Secondly, just a quick disclaimer. None of the tokens that we talk about in here is a call to action for you to go buy. It's not a solicitation. It is not a shill. These are simply tokens that we talked about throughout our broadcast. Either we like them or invested in them, but please do not be taking that as an action to go buy. Thank you so much and enjoy the video. Well, today is August 14th. It is about noon. I got Crypto Fundamentals here with me. We are going to do our very best to get back into a consistent schedule with getting just some market updates out, some things we see, and then just general subjects and things that we kind of have found interesting throughout the week. And we'll talk on those things. But the first thing I want to do is I quickly want to look at the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum and the Bitcoin dominance as well. So I'm having a technical error. I can't share my screen. I'll figure that out by next one, but we can spit these out real quick. We've got Bitcoin with the price of 59,700 $700. We have Ethereum with a price of $2,679. And I also wanted to touch on the Bitcoin dominance right now, which has dropped a little bit. And what I'm seeing on my screen, and again, sorry, I can't share it, but it is looking like it's starting to break down a little bit and headed to the downside at just under 57%. So we've seen a really interesting last few weeks since you and I have been on. Our last talk, we were talking about a potential bear trap. It was like, 60 something K at the time, and it was headed down. I think it might have been 59K. It looked like it was headed down, and we got that, pretty big drop. We got a nice drop. OI got wiped out. I think it was 48.6 was the local bottom that we saw in Bitcoin at the time. And it seems like we're on a path for a nice reversal right now. We're headed into some more bullish months. We got bullish news or in line news with CPI. CF, what are you seeing, man? What are you looking at in this market?
First of all, I'm looking for closures above, 62K. We're grinding up towards resistance right now. Of course, I am bullish long-term, midterm. I think everybody knows that. I think we're in a period of chop. Those washouts that we saw, I think I was messaging you when it was happening. And I was saying, I can't stop laughing right now, if you recall, because the timeline was it was bad. You can see when you see those red candles going like this, just so quick and down, and everybody's getting liquidated over and over, and they think it's over, and it keeps going. It's one of those times, once a year, once every 2 years. And so I was cracking up. You certainly can retest lows. You certainly can retest 55, 52. You can retest those lows. If that low broke, then I'd be concerned. I'm waiting for 62K to be reclaimed, 63K. I think we're going to grind up towards towards our all-time highs eventually here through the rest of the year, through Q3 and Q4. I don't know how it's going to go because it's so choppy right now. I think there's going to be a lot of chop. There always is in August and September. I don't like chop. I don't like trading chop. I hate it because when I trade chop, it's frustrating. I got to wait longer, and that's not what kind of trader I'm in. I'm a swing trader. I typically stay away until I see some nice bottom entries. I did enter at like 49.7. I remembered I entered INJ there, but I closed about 10% up. I'm just waiting. But I want to see a decent uptrend before I re-enter fully in blue chips, because I don't quite trust the environment. A lot of people do. That's great. But what I do, I've talked about this before, is I protect I protect capital before anything else. So I'm not going to be looking to long term again until I see some liquidity return to the markets, number one, and Bitcoin reclaim key areas, number two. I'm not in a rush. I'm just not, But I love it. I don't think we're going to go. I'd be shocked if we went below that low 48. But it could happen. I see realistic targets. That's me. Everyone wants to hear me say, it's going to 100K. It is over time. I don't know when. I'm very realistic, and I'm very ever changing and flexible on this. Could it go to 44K like some people think? Sure, could be a hell of a buying opportunity, in my opinion. Of course, even at 44K, you're looking at trading a bounce, right? and not something I would get into long term because you've broken significant structure there. And if you close like a weekly below there, I think there could be room for lower. That sounds crazy, right? But we've seen weird things happen. Also see some kind of, remember the double top in 21, 22 or 21 when we went through that summer of lull and we had the double top in November. I see that a lot as people kind of projecting that as a double top. It'd be very strange to only, close out a cycle, $5,000 above the all-time high in 2021. But there's all these theories, guys, and you have to weigh them against kind of what you think and kind of your TA. And I have long-term projections, for my long-term holds, which are on Ledger that I don't touch. But those are multi-year things I don't even think about. When I'm trading, I don't think about, that's not something I think about at all. Because I want to make money today, and that's the money I live off of. Long-term holds are not something I sell or live off of. And I'm not putting money at risk. That's the thing. So stocks are doing well too, right? They are SPX. I see them going to new all-time highs before, the end of the year, 2026, early 2025 is what I mean. Yeah, what I said is like not very clear for everybody, I'm imagining, but that's how I work. I change my trading strategy every week depending on price action, and that's how I do well. I don't keep it the same. I do think Bitcoin could grind up and easily test 65K here. It could be chopped from 58K to 65K until the end of September. It really could. So that's why I want to see some liquidity enter. Very, very thin books I've noticed on Coinbase and stuff too. Yeah, just hanging out, waiting. But I am bullish long term. There's nothing to worry about at all. I think we're going to go to new highs. I think people were very, very premature in calling alt season and altcoin rallies back in April, May, June, July, especially, given the precedence of what we do during those months. And I think they're not going to be till 2025. I don't think they are. And we're not that far away, guys. People are like, oh, 2025. I mean, we're not far at all. It's going to go by like that. But I think the election has to get digested for a lot of things to shake out. Usually, though, they're bullish years, but I mean, really, could it be bullish this year with these? I mean, how so many uncertainties in the I don't even think presidents change things much. I think they enact policies based on, what their handlers tell them to. Presidents have been widely controlled and handlers since the days of Woodrow Wilson, even before that, likely. And there's books on this, so I'm not just talking out of my ass. But the Federal Reserve, central banking, things like that. But that aside, you got Trump, who might be going to jail. You have Kamala, who's just an odd individual. There's a lot of uncertainty in these markets because no one knows what's going to happen and who these things. So I see chop until at least we get some more clarity on that. And again, it needs to rally at some point before the election. I'm not sure what that's going to mean. Maybe October, November-ish.
I agree. I mean, it's funny because, I swear to God, if I had not a dollar invested in this market, I would be able to trade it better, in the sense of when you've got money in it, every dip makes you just your blood curdle, right? It's like, oh my God, let me get that back so I don't lose that. And then of course, when it starts moving and you don't have any money in it, and you're like, oh, and then that's when you start doing the chasing. So, to your point, couple things, those dips that keep on dipping, man. I've been thankful to have a few, really solid traders that have been here for a while that I can kind of take some key sentiment off of what they're putting out. And it's funny because it took me a very long fucking time to really put this into play. But, when we saw that big dip down, I had a nice cushion of capital to start buying. And I think I told you, I messaged you and was like, I bought the $52,900 dip. That was where I bought a chunk of it. But I still had like 3/4 of my capital still left to deploy, and I still do. We've seen a nice rise, but it's not to say that we can't retest the lows again. And what's really interesting is the strength in Bitcoin over just Bitcoin itself. That could be due to a multitude of things. I mean, obviously it's the number one most talked about digital asset that's out there. I mean, we've got, just whispers and talks of, presidential candidates,
Mhm.
what they could do with it and things like that. People need to understand that there's no talk with altcoins like this yet,
Right.
right? And it's not a bad thing. In last cycle, I was convinced that we were going to see the flippening and ETH was going to run past Bitcoin and all these things. And I'm going to be honest with you. If it was going to happen, I really think it was going to be last cycle when NFTs were huge and, you know, uh,
Right.
99% of NFTs were launched on Ethereum. And, there was just this big want for ETH. And now, in my eyes, the scope has changed in the macro lens. While ETH is still bullish, I mean, it wouldn't, obviously they wouldn't have created the ETF for it if they didn't have plans, for it down the road or whatever. But I genuinely believe that they are on a real movement to see Bitcoin as the digital gold. Like, and I know
Yeah.
we've talked about that, and that's been how it's described for many a years. But when you start having Trump talk about the Federal Reserve, with Bitcoin and things like that, super interesting talk. And
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that there's going to be a period like we saw even last run where Bitcoin tore from 10K to like 30K in a
Yeah.
matter of, like, I think it was like a week or two.
It
um
was so short. Yeah.
it was so, yeah, I mean, it happened so quickly. And I really think we're going to see something like that again. And something you didn't say in this talk, but we had said like 22 and 23, which was heading into this next cycle, you didn't want to see a parabolic move out of Bitcoin. You didn't want to
No.
see, the Dukes of Hazard and the General Lee flying and just,
Yeah.
smacking it and just run into a quick 100K, because it really doesn't work out for anybody. And people think, oh, that's
Right.
bullshit and this, that, and the other, but it's really not. And to my point there is, this market is never going to allow clear winners. It's never going to say this setup looks so good that everyone in their mother needs to sell their house and go long on this.
Well,
Um,
I think they sort of did that with Bitcoin this year. Long term, decade long, right?
yes,
But yeah, to your
you
point, go ahead.
you have to, yes, you have to zoom out, and that's what I was kind of meaning when I said at the beginning. I swear I could trade this market better if I had no money in it, because when you start putting lumps in, and
Hmm.
it moves, Bitcoin moves 2% in the down direction. Well,
Right.
you put six figures in, 2% in the down direction is a big move, right?
Right.
For a lot of people. And so, like, you don't you take out these emotions, you take out the FOMO or the opposite of that, which is just the atomic nuke that could happen with it, or
Yeah.
that feels like it could happen.
Hmm.
I swear that if I just had a damn play account that had no real money in it, I'd be up 5,000x, because I could sleep at night. But I look at things now and I'm like, man, they have done a tremendous job of breaking the old all-time high by 5,000, and everyone, I mean, you could just watch the order
Hmm.
book stack up with longs, right?
Well,
And
it
then,
was pre-halving too. So go ahead.
no, it was, yeah, and that was something we had talked about as well. And
Oh.
this is why I'm like really excited, and also like I need to relax a little bit and be a little more patient. I'm with you. The macro view of Bitcoin has the case of it being a bullish thesis for the next 10 years has never been better. We went from, realistically, 2 years ago, or we could even say at the peak of the cycle last cycle in 21, that we would have been shitting bricks to have presidential candidates
Yeah.
speak on the subject of crypto in general.
And
You
if that
know,
had happened, then we would have ran to 100K then. But we're in
easily.
the cycle here now. But
I
go ahead.
really
Yeah.
believe that. And so it's really, there's a lot of different views that can kind of be looked at here. But I'm with you, man. I think the macro case that can be argued for
Mhm.
Bitcoin is so strong. And there's a lot of really smart individuals that are kind of leaning that way as well. So
I think,
it makes me feel
yeah,
more comfortable in that.
I'm very, here's the thing about like a guy like Larry Fink. So guys like him, if you think they're not super connected to the US Secretary of Treasury, the United States president, and the CEOs of JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, etc., you're mistaken. They all pal around. They go to the same parties. They go to the same groups. They can't all look like, finance doesn't work that way. They can't all look like they're all managing risk differently. They're all kind of playing to their strengths, but they're all on board, right? They are. In my opinion, Larry, they control $11 trillion worth of assets. BlackRock does. And this is becoming a meme, the BlackRock talk. I'm not telling you alts are going to pump because they don't have to. They can all die. What I'm telling you is Larry Fink isn't going to get on national TV and talk about some Bitcoin being great. He thinks it's going to do tremendous over 10 years unless he 100% knew that it was going to do that well. This is not some fucking clown. This is somebody that's very, very, very powerful and has more influence than most politicians. And that's what's going to happen. And he's tipping his hat, right? And you think he's not coming on in 5 years, 10 years, being heralded as a hero on the news, on CNN, NBC, and whatever the hell else, the money markets and all those fucking shows I don't watch. But, that's what's going to happen. It is, unless something insanely out of his control happens, which I sincerely doubt. So, long-term asset procurement is in tech stocks and Bitcoin. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. But it's 100% going up, but it's going up on their timeline, not ours. So I hope you have plenty of time to study and get ready, or you can just ape certain things, but that does not by all means look at alts are behaving somewhat differently this cycle. They are bleeding more than anything. Looking from March to now, many of them won't ever reach new all-time highs again. I really believe that. It's a narrative cycle. Not to say tech won't pump again, because when the time is right, I believe these companies will adopt some of this tech, will utilize some of this tech. And when they start discussing this tech, you'll see those ones skyrocket. I'm not sure what they'll ever use. They could use, Chainlink, Polkadot, whatever, Ethereum's tokenized economy, things like this. When they start hyping them up and discussing them, they'll be looking for extra liquidity because they've been accumulating. That's what's going to happen, right? And then you'll have microcaps and midcaps parroting off this, not parroting, but mimicking this narrative and associating themselves with these assets that they're talking about, right? Like AI did, from December to March. And that's what'll happen typically. So it's coming, and I think it won't be too long. But I mean, guys, it's post-halving. We're about there, in my opinion. Anything can happen. I'm saying October, November, December, But these election things are weird. It's a weird election. So you could have another black swan easily. You could have all these things happen. That's why, this is exactly why. Like some people think I talk in circles and I have all these different opinions. Yes, I do. I have several different theories and I'm watching them all at all times. That's how my mind works. And that is why I've talked about this before. The majority of half of my portfolio is always in cash. I always have it. And I'm only deployed, I've said this before, I'm probably only fully deployed once or twice a year in a 12-month period. That is it. And that is when it's those obvious trades, those obvious trading months, like when we were December to March, right? Otherwise, I'm not. And that's why I've always managed my risk. And that's why I've been able to survive here. It's not because I'm a fucking, pardon my French, the best trader ever. I'm an above average trader. I'm a great gem hunter. I'm good at this. I'm good at figuring out what could do well, what could be adopted. Most of it isn't, of course, like we all know this, but there is a chance, there's potential. Those are the kind of things I like to go after, but managing risk is or if you don't want to manage risk, just put it on the Bitcoin, you'll be fine. Right.
I genuinely believe that just a Bitcoin trading strategy, will outperform most other coins. And I know there's going to be 100 people that just heard that and go, my coin's going to do this. Well, that's if your fucking coin's here in 2 years or 3 years at all.
Right. And that's the other thing. I've seen no one talk about this. So everyone's Bitcoin dominance at highest in some years, and at resistance, and it's going to dump out. Could be. But what are we seeing? We're seeing alt pairs bleed like, if alts are really going to do that well, we're in a day and age where they should be performing well and they should be being adopted, right? So I see them bleeding out still, right? And Bitcoin dominance going up, and Bitcoin's a preferred asset of institutions or preferred digital cryptocurrency asset of institutions and things like this. Well, who's to say that Bitcoin dominance couldn't go to 80%? I'm just saying, in the times that we're in, just be cautious. Of course, watch watch these charts, and they'll probably get an initial reaction, but there's no saying it couldn't do that. I mean, if the theories are really correct, and I believe this too, and I don't know when it's going to be, it could be 26, 27, 28, could be next year, I don't know. Regulations come in, wipe all the shit out of the market. You're going to see very few alts survive, and Bitcoin dominance will be probably 80, 85%. Is this their way of doing it, by slow bleeding everything? I don't know. But, it's something to keep an eye on. And that's why you have to follow market trends, narratives, charts, and sentiment at all times. All things have to come, they combine together to give you clarity, or at least enough knowledge to get the hell out of the way if you need to get out of the way. And so, but that could happen, just saying.
I think that there is some underlying, I don't know if you want to call it alpha, but maybe a strategy that could be used. Most of these pairs are brutally down from their Bitcoin pair.
Yeah.
And
hammered, ETH especially.
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think, and this is just me thinking, it's definitely probably not right, but I really think that there's probably a general trading strategy, because the big guys are leading the way, right? Your BlackRock, your Fidelity, Jump Trading, Wintermute, all these guys, right? Those guys, they talk in their little circle. They do. And none of us are in that fucking circle. But no. I have to imagine that when we're looking at the Bitcoin pairs and everyone that hasn't made new higher lows or is not on a true uptrend in it, I genuinely believe that if there is, any VC funding, that they know, and they know that there is a true movement coming on Bitcoin, right? One that may possibly outpace, your top 20 to 30 alts. And I do believe, I genuinely believe that could happen. Had you said that to me last cycle, I'd have said, you're fucking stupid, blah, blah, blah. And that would just be me being ignorant and not knowing, but then as well, we've had a landscape change. We've had actual institutions show interest, in Bitcoin and ETH. There are a few others that have been talked about, but nothing's, been solidified yet. I'd imagine that maybe with just sheerly the amount of volume, probably a Solana ETF, or I can't say that for sure, because
I still don't understand. And a lot of people will get pissed off, but I trade Solana. I trade fucking memes on Solana. I trade it. I trade the coin too. I still don't understand where the value proposition comes from on Solana. The tech is okay. It has a bad name through, it's getting a bad name through many different mechanisms. It had a bad name last cycle after SBF, and those people destroyed it. And, it's what is good attached to Solana. I'm probably undereducated on Solana though too, so I don't know, in particular, but what good it has attached to Solana?
Oh, pump fund, brother. Taking $580 million out of the fucking market.
That's right. That's all it does. It just pulls liquidity out just like a rug. So, but this is...
And that's one thing real quick, CF, that people aren't understanding is last run, we saw a massive injection of liquidity. I mean, arguably the biggest in...
Could be coming again. We'll see.
It could be. I forget who it was. John Wick, I think it's Zero Hedge on Twitter. He has the Alpha Bot bundle thing that he does. And super interesting. He shared that somebody put it, I want to say, over liquidity entering the market, or like available to enter the market.
Sure.
And it was interesting because he said that this was the first time it had tracked above that particular area since 2021. And he was like, and the John Wick guy was like, I had never thought to lay the alpha bundle over that. Right. So super interesting. Just another metric maybe to look at. But yeah, I mean, I don't know really where to sit with things, man, because I know what happens when the money printer comes back on. I do. Yeah. And we are, and anybody watching this is likely in the very fortunate position where they are, maybe in an area where they can capitalize on that liquidity coming in. And that's if, by chance we're able to pool at the, near the top. And when this all happens, we're able to keep those profits. But dude, I just look at what happened in 2020. to 2021 and we printed all this money and it was obvious that we were going to have inflation across the board. You can't send all that fucking money in and nothing
Mhm.
happens. And here we are on the downside of 3 years later, and we're still talking rate cuts. We're still talking all this really kind of mid bearish kind of sentiment and shit. And we're slowly getting there. We're slowly turning that corner. But it concerns me. And that is again kind of why, I'm just at my second Bitcoin, full Bitcoin being accumulated right now.
Right.
And I'm thrilled. Like had you told me last cycle you're going to be buying Bitcoin next cycle, I'd have been like, yeah, okay. Because I literally 5 years in this space now, and I just bought my first full Bitcoin like three
Right.
or 4 months ago. But that is the narrative shift that I'm picking up is yes, this is becoming a serious player. But, after watching, and I'll say this too, putting that money in Bitcoin, I bought my first Bitcoin at 67,000. And when it
Yep.
came tumbling down to 48.8, well, guess what, brother? That shit was a whole lot better going down, the 12% or the
Yep.
20% or whatever than my entire fucking altcoin portfolio, which, somebody came in and took a fucking thing of kerosene and threw the match in. And then, after it was burnt down, came in and took a big shit on it and then put a thing of C4 in there. My old
Yep.
bag got absolutely wrecked, man.
To your point, when you look at things like INJ, right? So it had a high in March of $53. And right now it's trading at 19, had a low of 14. Are we in a bull market? Of course, you're going to have rallies and it could go up past that again and whatever. But the structure here is a high time frame bearish. There's nothing else. There's no arguing that. It found some support on the 5 day during that move down. Really did down to, I'm just using this as an example because I trade it down to 13.50. But from $53 to 13.50 in, March, April, May, June, July, August, like that less than 6 months, that's that's not strength. I don't know another way to put it. It's not strength. So Bitcoin, yeah, Bitcoin's doing fine. Still high term from uptrends. It's okay. But in relation to the rest of the market, like you were saying, they're not doing great. And these are supposed to be the most bullish ones. Solana's doing fine, I guess. But here's how quickly things change too. You mentioned you're accumulating Bitcoin. Because by next cycle, Bitcoin could be just this asset, an accumulation range, multi-year accumulation range for if they wanted to, because they control so much supply now. And Ethereum could be the thing that we're trading at 15K, right? That's how quickly they can change the narratives. That's how quickly all they do is announce that they're going to be modeling, mortgage-backed securities, fractionally with, packaging them on in tokenization, right? Sounds stupid, now, but they could implement something like this or talk about implementing something like this, and the narrative would change. The ship would change. That's all it would have to do, because we all know there's another housing crisis coming, or at least it's theorized. It looks plausible, right? Do we know for sure? No. But when that happens, how do they fix it? Okay, well, maybe we can tokenize the system and make sure that these things are, the tranches don't work the same, and we can secure them this way, right? And kind of have better visual and clarity of what's going on within that market. These kind of things can happen. I'm not sure how it would be set up. I have to think. This is just shit coming out of my mouth right now. But I have to think long and hard about how they would, organize this and, set up an infrastructure for it. But it could be done. That's how quickly things can change in this market. Because this market is infantile compared to the stock market. It is. People are so quick to give up on the tech too. But the tech is not advanced. The tech is not done growing. The tech is not done. It isn't at its peak. It's not done. It's still being built out. We don't know what all it's going to be used for, how it's going to be used, what's going to survive. We just don't know. You just got all speculation, and that's why people are always like, well, this is a scam. It's a scam. It's a scam. Well, it all was a scam in the beginning. Only people who you have to there's some degree of luck and there's some degree of hard work and there's some degree of usefulness that you come up with that maybe you didn't even see in the beginning as a developer. I mean, many of these developers are just talking out of their ass when they had an ICO and an idea, but they had the capability to build, and they built something really neat, right? That can be used, that the economy may need one day. And that's where you're stuck at. You're stuck at the mercy of, global institutions and retail like needing something for this. Not if retail doesn't need it, it's going to die. If they can't sell it, it's going to die. And then even that, you have to have a use case for it. So even BlackRock talked about using Ethereum to tokenize, real estate, or the government did, which I don't even think would happen. But, they're not going to just sit there and let it would be weird if supply control was, 1% in the hands of deacons, right? You don't see these finance companies, their stock being held like that by normal people. So I don't know how they would work it out. But would they even use Ethereum, or would they kind of create something that they could on their own? Or maybe they're creating something on their own that they can use. They do have the money. They're going to be able to buy the best developers and tech people, and they can just create it on their own. And that's another people. Some people don't consider this, and that's why I tell people to take profits. You don't know what this more. Bitcoin is the only guarantee I see. That's it. Chainlink's cool, but if they're interested in developing their own things that are centralized, that are distributed ledger tech, they don't have any use for fucking Chainlink, no matter how much you love it. And I like Chainlink, but that's not. And so I'm not saying there's not room for decentralization. It won't happen. It won't be used. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is to be fucking prepared, because these guys can turn the corner anytime they want. Odds are they have the next 10 years plan on what's going to work out and what's not going to work out. I guarantee it. And some are iffy, right? Okay, they talked to such and such team about this, and okay, well, if you develop it this far, we might have a use for it. Come back to us then, right? That's where it's all at, in my opinion. And a lot of people aren't seeing that. They're not going to tell you this. You kind of have to kind of guess. Okay, so this is doing that, this is doing this and that, and my hope is it does this, right? And still hanging in there. They're talking about ETF, blah blah, and we'll see how it goes. But you have to be ready to get out if you want to capitalize on this market, because although I do believe in the real potential of this, and I like the technology, and it can be used, the question always remains: will they? Say they adopted something in the top 50 where 10% of the supply is held by the team. I mean, how would that work to a corporation to have that much? You know what I mean? They have to have the control over it in order for it to be adopted. So you're gonna buy these guys out OTC? What is it? I don't know, but it would have to be something different. They're not going to sit there. This is not the way the world works. Some people have gotten rich in this market. People are making good money. You have to be smart, savvy, you have to have some experience. The opportunities are there, but they are going to not let every fucking person in the world just in on this secret where they're going to get rich. That's not the way it works. They don't want people to make it. They want you relying on the system. They want you indebted to them. They want you buying a house with a mortgage. They want these things. They're not going to allow everybody to say, hey, long this, and just, to your point, they're not. You have to understand this market and expect that anything can happen, and you have to position yourself accordingly. Every day you have to be ready to pivot. And that's how I operate. And that's, so it's tiring for sure. That's the way it is. I can't explain it any clearer than that if you're not ready to take profits, and you're not ready to trade well, and you're not ready to follow narratives and follow liquidity, then it's probably not for you.
People don't realize either that what we're essentially doing is going after a traditional banking system, right? That's been around for a very long time. And the powers in charge are very comfortable with where their money is and how their money moves, because they're not concerned if shit goes to fucking zero tomorrow. They're not. They have it all. They have most people in the world in debt.
The market cap of cryptos is nothing to these people. Some people have more wealth than the entire market cap, including land and everything else. And, some families do, their names, whatever. It's not a concern to them. People on Twitter think they're so concerned about cryptocurrency hurting them. A bullshit if they are, because if they wanted to crush it, they could crush it inside of a year. You say it's decentralized? Okay, well, what happens when they cut off the servers and the internet? Right? That you can build a decentralized internet. Okay.
I mean, consensus is already under fire with, working with the fucking government and shit.
Yeah. They don't have a fucking choice, guys, because these are the guys that will track you, hunt you, and put you in fucking prison. And so you might believe in decentralization up to your eyeballs, and I like it too. I'm going to be logical and approach this from a state of fucking wanting to understand and knowing where it's going, knowing I don't have control over it. because I don't. And that's where I'm at with it. These guys, if they wanted to crush it, look how tiny the market cap is. They could crush it any time they want. They own the newspapers, they own the media. They allow it to exist. So they're allowed it to exist for a reason. What is those reasons, right? Find what they're after, find what they're gonna adopt, find what they're gonna prop up. Right? They're allowing it to be there. Maybe just to sneak their own shit in quietly. But if they really wanted to do that, they have so much power now. Couldn't they just do that? They might have like, a couple million people revolt and this and that. But would that be a problem for them either? I don't know.
It would be a lot more difficult, in my opinion, for them to kill Bitcoin, but the 99% of other alts that are out there, they could absolutely fucking destroy if they wanted to.
Destroy everything right now.
Everything. And that actually segues perfectly for what I was going to talk about just a minute ago. Was, if you remember when CZ nuked Sam and sent FTX just tumbling, that was a contagion event far beyond what most people really was expecting. And to my point on this, last run, we had A16Z, Three Arrows Capital, Jane Street, all these fucking little tiny VCs that were legitimately leveraging out their hundreds of millions of dollars and propping, and I'm going to say that properly, they were propping the altcoin market up last run. And so I genuinely believe that the reason we're not seeing a massive altcoin run this time is a lot of those people either didn't get funding this time, or they learned their very, very difficult lesson last run, which is, hey, it's a whole lot better to make 3x on $50 million than losing 80% of $500 million. I mean, if not, and I say 80% like a light number, because I'm pretty sure they lost fucking everything in that.
And that's the other reason why people are so against regulations. But we, and I mean me included, everybody, we have left them no choice, really. The cycle before was ICOs. Then the cycle was SBF and all these Three Arrows Capital, these companies that people thought were legitimate. They were all absolute dog shit. My grandmother could have
gambling. They were gambling.
They were not professional institutions in any way, shape, or form. These are fucking losers. Hands down, fucking losers.
My signal to get the fuck out was when what was the girl's name that Sam was messing with? The was it Carolyn?
Whatever.
When she got on an interview and they were asking about how they trade and where they place their stop losses, and she says, "We don't do stop losses. We've learned that it's not a profitable trading strategy." Oh my God, dude. Because they were kids. They're fucking kids.
I know. And that's the point, guys, out there, if you're listening to this, is every cycle, there's, the people in charge or the supposed leaders of the space have turned out to be absolute fucking morons. What choice have we left? We have absolutely proved we cannot self-govern, and we can't put people that are good in charge. Remember Danny from Time and fucking all those guys too? We have absolutely proven that good people don't get in charge, just like government, man. It's the same everywhere. The good people don't get in charge. It's always shitty people, LARP people, the people who talk a lot, the fucking shitty car salesman type, right? That knows how to spin things, that knows how to manipulate people, that knows how to hype them up, that promises them the world. If you're out there, look for the guys not promising you the fucking world. Look for the guys to say, okay, you have a better than average chance of getting here, but manage your risk and get out here, or fucking watch this stuff like this. Bring yourself down off the hype, because you're only going to make long-term money off things, people that are trying to support things and talk about things. And I'm talking about stocks and everything in a realistic manner. Like, you should not be looking to make $100 million in fucking 5 years, $1 million. Sure, doable. Absolutely. But you're not going to do it without managing risk. And you have people out there saying, and I don't talk badly about anybody on CT. I think it's a path towards, self-destruction, talking shit and run your mouth a lot. But there are people out there that tell you, well, $11 million is not a lot of money. $8 million isn't a lot of money. To who? Are you fucking joking me? The majority of the world lives on like $1 to $2 a day, right? That's how poor the majority of the world is, where they were living on. I think there's a stat. I could be a little wrong, but it's not far from that. $1 to $2 a day is what they spend. And people can't live on 2 million. I mean, or like 8 million. Are you kidding me? Yeah. It's ridiculous the level of comfort everybody kind of thinks they're entitled to. But I'm not saying you're not entitled to that through hard work. What I'm saying is come up with something realistic that you want, achieve that goal first, and then add on to those goals. I mean, if your house isn't paid off and your student loans aren't paid off, and right, you're not helping family and you're not able to feel good about what you're doing, you're probably not on the right path. This trading thing is not like a one cycle deal. It isn't. I even had a guy say to me about, I remember I had a comment once last year. I said, oh, I've been here 7 years. He's like, oh, you've been here 7 years and you haven't made it yet? He must be doing something wrong. I was like, no, I ain't been scamming.
I was going to say
But,
it's not that you're not doing something wrong. You're just not taking the quick way.
yeah,
I
no.
mean,
And
there's
I built myself up to being able to pay off a house and buy a little bit of land. It's nothing special to a lot of people who want a fucking mansion and stuff, but my family, they ain't got to worry, right? I don't have to worry. If I lose everything tomorrow, I'll still be rich because my original profession is too in psychiatry. I keep all my licenses, I keep all my DEA prescribing licenses up. Guess what? It doesn't work out for me. I spent 7 years building something where I can just go back to work and only have to pay utilities and taxes. Cool. Well, but and that's my goal. Those goals are progressive steps. And certainly there was negative years in there. A lot of first 3 years I was net negative, of course. And that's what it takes because you're just not going to understand things. And no one can explain them to you in a way that your mind can explain them to you after your losses and experiences. But back to the point, like this market, it's been led by fucktards. It has. And it always has, and it is again today. And I don't know another way to put that. I just don't. So you have to be careful with who you're listening to. And I follow some of the people that I wouldn't listen to. I follow a lot of people that I actually wouldn't take advice from just to see what they're saying, right? Just to kind of, fly on the wall type deal. Like I want to see what this guy's saying. Usually there's too much drama. I just turn it off. But I don't know another way to put it, man. It's a really, really, guys, if you're new, even here 2 years, it's a really difficult market to navigate because your feet are in stone at first, right? And so talk about this with me and you. When we first came to the market, CD, all we cared about was fundamentals. Fundamentals. We wouldn't touch a meme. So our feet were in quicksand, cement, whatever you want to say. But after getting bit in the ass so much, you learn to pivot. Microcaps with potential, tech heavy things, right, that are new, things that look safe that people can do well from that may work out, right? These are the things I try and limit myself to discussing. Even really popular memes. Like a lot of people don't like memes, but neither do I. But I trade them now. They have forced their way into a spot where they're here, right? But there are fundamentals in memes to a degree, like teams not scammers, teams putting money into it, teams doing all they should be doing. Okay, well, it'll probably do okay then. But the market is very, very difficult to navigate. And guys, if you're impatient, it'll hurt you. That's all I can tell you.
and what I don't think a lot of people realize is the more cycles we have, the more difficult this becomes. I forget who it was. I think maybe Nebraska Gooner. Was it Benjamin or something like that? Last cycle, he brought up the theory of diminishing return and lengthening cycles. And
Yeah,
dude, I think we're seeing it this run, right?
I do think we're seeing it,
Yes.
which is okay. It's
Yeah.
just
You just got to be patient. We are in a financial position in real life where most people are squeezing pennies to pay bills, to pay
I
rent,
know.
to put fucking $4 a gallon gas in their car, depending on where they're at,
Yeah, I borrowed
Um,
one of my relatives' money for a car payment last week, which is fine. And I don't make them pay it back. I'm just like, yeah, no, you're struggling, right? Because I get it, because I've been there. But the people are suffering.
and to your point on the people trying to make it in a single cycle. I did that last cycle. I had $1.7 million in my port. And I was only able to, after it was all said and done, capitalize on about 300K of it, which I'm blessed. That's 300K more than I've ever seen, right? But it wasn't 1.7 million, was it? And I sit back and I kick myself for a long time,
Mhm.
but this cycle is very different to me. I know I'm not going to sell the top. I know it. I know it in
Yep.
my heart. I'm not going to sell the fucking top. And I'm okay with that because this cycle, and this isn't trying to flex. This is transparency so people can see
Right.
how somebody that's been doing this for 5 years, this is how I'm going about it. I'm not in CF's position where I've got,
Well,
a whole bunch of credentials, or I'm able to go and if
right.
this doesn't work out, I'm, let me back up. If this didn't work out more than 5, 6 months ago, I was in trouble. If this doesn't work out now, as far as, if we go into a bear market next week and, we got another 2 years, which I don't think that's going to happen. So pipe down. But
Mhm.
if it did, I'm not going to freak out because now
Yeah.
I've put, in March and April, February, March and April, I was taking some profits out of
Yeah.
every fucking bag I had. And I wasn't chunking, but I was taking little bits every day. And
Mhm.
over time, that got me to a six-figure bag, of just
Yeah.
cash, just sitting there. And
Yeah.
when I saw that, I said to myself, I'm only taking a small bit of this and putting this back into this market. I've given too much money back to this market last cycle. I bought NFTs last
Yeah.
cycle, all this shit. But for me, this cycle, this is how I'm looking at it, is I believe that we're going to see another cycle, right?
I
After the
agree.
halving or
I do
whatever,
agree. Yeah.
and down the road. And will it probably be regulated? Very good fucking chance, right? So that's why I'm kind of averaging into Bitcoin. But
Right.
I took that 100K and I'm not spending any of it because if we go into a bear market tomorrow, I've now got $100,000 for me to put myself through a trade school, to put myself through college, to live off of for a little bit. For 2 years is all I need, right?
Mhm.
And I've still got a good chunk of money in the market. I'm still, I don't know, probably 60% in the market, 70% in
Yeah.
the market, maybe even fucking more. I don't know. I haven't really looked,
Right.
but I do know that if it all went down tomorrow, I'm hoping it doesn't. I'm hoping that we get another nice, real big movement and I'm able to pull, and I got
Yeah.
more cash. But at the end of the day, what I'm doing now and where I fucked up tremendously last cycle is I in my head I'm thinking I'm going to make it this cycle. Boom, mom gets a fucking house, mom gets her student loans paid off, I pay my shit off, I get a house, and I'm done. Right
Right.
now, things are very different. I don't look at it like I'm looking at this cycle to be my retirement plan. I'm looking at this
Nope.
cycle as moving me ahead and placing me in a position for next cycle that can really give me a solid chance of propelling me to that
Mhm.
point. Because again, I'm one of those people that I look at Bitcoin and I genuinely think we hit 250,000 Bitcoin in the next, decade, or at
Yeah.
least, really in the next 5 years, I think. But
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. So at the end of the day, I got to have some fallback plan. I fucking sold car parts before this, buddy. I'm not nowadays. Before, we had a massive influx of all that cash and milk was
Yep.
$5. All this shit was expensive. $55,000 for slinging parts wasn't a bad gig. Dude,
No.
$55,000, and this isn't being trying to be a shithead for anybody that makes that or less. The struggle is fucking real, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to go into what my Rocket Mortgage. I track all my spending now on Rocket Mortgage. I would be
Yeah.
dead fucking broke within 3 months if I made 50K a year, and it's not because of spending. My spending hasn't gotten out of control. I had to catch up on some things for a little
Mhm.
while, so that's why I'm spending was a little more. But dude, $50,000 a year is in the U.S. depending on where you live,
Mhm.
that's fucking scraping by, my man. And so I'm looking at things this run of, dude, if I can leave this run, I would love to be over a million, right? But if
Yep.
I can leave this run, which I've already said it, I'm not touching the 100K I've put to the side, period. That gives me two 50K years where I'm not having to go get a fucking job, right? So I'm not having
Yep.
to drive. I'm not having to do these things. I can eat at home. I can truly cut down on my spending. But then I can also say, broski, you can't do this again. Like you can't have another 2 years where you have no fallback. And so
Right.
as like kind of like foundation shaking as that can be, a lot of like it's fucking hilarious when I tell my mom, like, I've
Yeah.
got no real fallback now. But now as
Well,
I
yeah,
mature and I'm like, I really got to get that foundation in the next run. And that
right.
foundation in the next run is kind of copying what you've got. A good job, a decent job to, if it
Yeah,
doesn't, and it all went to fucking zero. And I forget what the corny fucking monopoly looking guy that was Bitcoin going to zero. If you knew who made Bitcoin going to fucking zero.
Dan Pena, he's
Yeah,
funny.
whatever that fucking dude's name is, if
Yeah, he's
he
funny as
somehow
hell.
ends up being right, which I don't think it's gonna happen, but
You know,
I don't want to ever be on the wrong side. You have to. If I don't know if you ever saw World War Z with Brad Pitt, but he flew to, I think it was Jerusalem, was where they were out there, and they had that massive wall around their
seen it
city,
once a long time ago. I
and
don't remember.
he says, how did you foresee this? It was like a black swan event. It was like, how the fuck did you as a country see this coming for years and build a wall that was able to keep these zombies or whatever out? And the guy said, there's a rule of, it was like the one man rule or something like that. And so, in other words, if there was 10 people, out of the 10 people, it was the one man's job to think opposite of the other nine, and that if the other nine were in agreement that no, this can't happen, everything's going this way, it was up to the one man to say, well, what if it doesn't go that way? What if it does do this?
Mhm.
And so I feel like everybody, if they're at a point where they've got even a little bit of capital that they want to preserve, they have to
Yeah.
have the one man where they
Mhm.
say, oh, okay, fuck,
Mhm.
yeah, the price is really good. It's this, it's that. But outside of technical indicators, you have to say within yourself, well, when is my breaker? When is my personal safety breaker come on? When
Right.
do I made $10,000 on this cycle? Well, if you made $10,000 in this cycle, that's fucking awesome. That's 10,000 more than you had. Well, what are you
Right.
going to do to preserve that? Put that back in. We had this conversation the other day of putting that back and even letting it work for you in the bear market. I mean,
Right.
fuck, USDC on Coinbase is a 5% APY.
Mhm.
We talked about that. It may not be the
Yep.
smartest thing, but I shoved my 100K in that motherfucker. Six
Mhm.
thousand
Mhm.
dollars a year to just sit in a bear market. Whole lot better than going down 6% a
Those
week
interest
or a
rates
month.
won't be the next bear, but
Probably. Probably
but
not.
yeah, I think you're dead in the money there. And this market's sort of trading weird, so it's good to be cautious too.
It is. I mean, and I say that kind of like because you look at USDC and you look at Tether and kind of just the rumblings that have gone on throughout there. And you know, no one except for fucking CZ apparently.
Mm.
Nobody saw the bottom falling out on crypto the way that it
Yeah.
did last
Hmm.
cycle. And I think that even though all of us are gung ho, we have institutions buying, we have
Yep.
presidential candidates talking about it. I think it is very irresponsible to just say we won't see that happen again. Right now,
Right.
granted, a lot of those players got washed last time in
Hmm.
A16 and three areas, and a lot of them got eaten alive. But a lot of people don't understand that black swans are black swans for a reason. It always kills me when someone's like, "Oh well, this is going to happen, so it's black swan." You fucking idiots, dude. Black swans are meant for events that were unforeseen, right?
Right.
COVID started as people getting sick and all this shit in China, and then overnight it was in another country, and then overnight it was in another country, and then shit starts shutting down. And while few people were starting to really say, oh, yeah, a true
Yeah.
shutdown could happen, I would argue to say that less than 0.01% of the population saw the entire world being shut down due to fucking Wuhan lab virus, right?
And that's the way it's supposed to be.
It is. It is.
So that's the
If
way it's
everyone saw it
designed.
happening, it wouldn't be a black swan event.
Mhm. Yeah. Another thing I think investors, if you're still here for this amount of time, a lot of people are underestimating the value of tech stocks that's going to happen. Tech stocks are going to perform, especially good ones that are coming out. There's a lot of new stuff that's coming out. Are going to perform exceptionally well and comparable to some mid caps in crypto. They will over the next 5 years. So I would look into those. There's a few that are crypto related too that I'm in. Galaxy, things like that. I'm in Tesla too. I think Tesla's gonna have a massive run over the next decade. People have biases. They let their biases affect their investing. It doesn't matter if you like the person, doesn't matter if you like the tech. I don't like electric cars. I don't give a shit. I drive something that takes a lot of gas.
You got a gas guzzler.
Well, I'm in the mountains, but I would never buy a Tesla because I'm paranoid like that. I grew up on a farm and stuff where had to be reliant. But yeah, anyways, I don't want an electric car. I have no desire to get an electric car. But I still will buy a Tesla because I know that it's going to do fucking well. Okay. It's cool if you got a Tesla. I don't care. Whatever. Everyone does what they want. That's what they want to do. Don't care. But I'm not going to buy one, but I'm still going to invest in the stock. And that's my point. And there are several things out there that people won't agree with. They won't agree with Elon doing this or Elon doing that. If you're on whatever side, who gives a fuck? You should only be on your side, nobody else's side. And so they won't buy his stock. Well, I guess you got to boil it down to, what are you here for? What are you all about? Are you here for yourself? You're here to help your family. You're here to help others. Any way you split it, any one of those reasons, you have more of a loyalty to yourself and what your dreams are than you do, thinking about this, these things that make people biased in investing.
This is really changing kind of tides on this. If you had, let's say, $10,000, you're just starting out, what would you suggest to somebody just coming in this space on either how to diversify it, or maybe, because obviously the person with 10 grand is going to tell you, well, I want to turn that into 100K. And a 10X in this market, especially halfway through after we've already seen a nice move out of Bitcoin, is pretty hard, right? So I'm not saying 10,000 to a 10X, but how would you suggest to somebody so that maybe they're able to maximize what they're able to do with that 10,000? How would you suggest somebody go about maybe allocating some of that money or positioning?
I wouldn't allocate much at all right now. I would hedge 75% of it, and I would practice with the rest and get in. They won't do this because they're in a hurry, because you're new, and we all are when we're new. But I wouldn't invest much of it at all. I would learn. I would start to learn structures and TA pairings, right? If you're looking to 10X, you're gonna need a strong altcoin, right? So you need to check pairings, right? Absolutely, you need to check pairings. And if they're on a downtrend, there ain't no sense in really entering unless you're a practiced trader, which many of you aren't or new. So there's nothing you should fucking do until you have a bottom pairing, and that could take a year. Well, build your 10K stack to 20K. Or put it all in Bitcoin, which will go up and you will gain some appreciation in. You could trade microcaps, the good tech microcaps, good tech or good narrative memes, things like this. But I would not use a lot of your money, 1% to 2%. So if you have $10,000, you're using like $100, right? You're putting $100 in. Hey, if it 5Xs, take it. A lot of people won't. They're like, oh, 5X is in 100X. Well, stop looking at this as in the amount of money as is, and keep an Excel sheet or something what does in percentages. If you're 500% up on an investment, you need to pull half, right? You need to pull half. If you want to let the rest ride, fine. But 99% of the time, it's going to die no matter what, right? But some are good. Some are real good. Some have potential. Some are going to do very, very well. So it's always recommended to leave a little bit in there, of course. But that is what I would do if I were me, my mind and my body back then. But no, me back then, when I first started, I was fucking, I was in graduate school, using up all my, I even put at the time, I even put a little bit of student loan money into the market, right? Chasing fucking pumps and stuff. Yeah. It's normal. You get excited. It's new. You're like, my God, there's an opportunity where I can do well, right? But what they don't tell you, what no one of these hype fucks out there won't tell you, is that it takes a lot of time to learn. And a lot of people get discouraged by that. Well, why? It's no different than learning any other trade. You got to pay your dues. You got to put time in, and then it'll come. And then when you do know your shit, the money will be somewhat easy compared to working a regular job. Much more. So if I had $10,000, I'd allocate 1% per microcap, or because you're managing risks then. So you lose $100, you still have 9,900 left. Okay, we're good, right? But upside, get a 5X, you got 500, you just increase your report by 5%. That's where people always get it wrong, because it's easy to hit a 5x if you're in like at 500K or whatever it is, if it's something good. So you could have 5 losses and 1 win, you break even, right? If you were looking at that from that method, it's much better than going all in these things, but they don't. They want to put, and altcoins, they're strong fundamentally. And I do believe many of them will have a day and they're going to run really fucking hard again. But I wouldn't do anything right now. I don't trust them right now, unless the BTC pairing is strong. Just put in BTC. Then, if you're in a hurry, throw it all in BTC. Go back to work. Keep adding to BTC. I have a hunch that if people just didn't spend on going out to eat, that extra coffee they talk about, all this crap they don't need, and they put it into BTC now and over the next 10 years, they'd all be millionaires. Like, I have a hunch, right? That if they were working and they had a decent job. But people want it now. And this has been, so if you're out there and you're one of these people, like, there's nothing to feel ashamed about. And there's nothing to, like, I don't know, get down on yourself about. If you're one of these people, well, I want it now, it's not fast enough for me. That's normal behavior and feelings because of the way we've been engineered over the past 10 years. We have been engineered over the past 10 years to want to have food on demand, any kind of food in the world on demand, especially if you're over here or in the West, even in the East in a lot of places, right? You can get whatever. I mean, look at it this way. You can get any fruit you want, no matter what the season is. If that is an age of decadence and convenience, I don't know what is. Because they had to, fruit was like a gift, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. You'd only get it when it fucking was ripe on the trees or the vines or whatever the hell, right?
I come
And
from
now,
a family of farmers. We got, well, not we, but my family there has 86 acres. I was up at ass crack of dawn, 4:15 to feed the cows and,
yeah,
do everything. And it's funny because,
got those stores, baby.
yeah, I mean, I think obviously I didn't know much about it back then, but there's a
Mhm.
reason they had like fucking crop insurance and shit like that, and to
Yeah,
certain degrees, because you had a bad summer where it rained too much or it didn't rain at all, and yeah, to your point, I didn't
I
even
know.
I didn't even really think about that. Like, yeah, you can really get shit all year round, I mean,
Yeah,
that's funny.
you
Yeah.
can get. That's how. So we have been engineered to want things immediately. If we don't get them immediately, people even get fucking depressed because we need that constant dopamine. We've been programmed to get dopamine, to get this feel good chemical that's in our brain constantly. You probably heard this before. It's common to hear it now, but I was talking about it and studying it long before it was popular. And the cell phone does this, computers do this, and movies do this, convenient life, ordering online, Amazon being at your house the next day does this. But there's one fucking area. This is never going to change. There's one area in the world where it'll never get convenient, and that's making money. I don't care if you're going to go to school, you better pick a great profession that you're going to have to work your ass out on. Or I don't care if you're a trader, you have to work your ass for years to be highly profitable. That's one area it will never be fucking convenient, is making money. They're not going to make it common, or it wouldn't be, you get what I'm saying. So think about it that way. It'll never be common. It'll never be convenient to make money, no matter what.
If it's convenient, there's something seriously flawed in the system.
Well, it won't be worth
Like,
anything if it was convenient and common.
yeah.
I think in Japan you can go there and get 40% more for your dollar right now.
Isn't that
It's
crazy?
worse
I
than
mean,
that.
dude,
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. It's something I've been looking at, just getting, a little bit of real estate over in Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
it's
wife's doctor was just telling us about it in the office last week. He's talking about he was visiting his mother over there. He had a great time because it's so beautiful and everything. And but like he was over there just buying shit because he's like it's like basically 40% off.
yeah.
And yeah, so
Well, and, with over there in Japan, you're able to purchase property whether you live there or not. You're able to purchase real
yeah.
estate whether you're a citizen or not. So, yeah, I mean, the world's just fucking crazy right now. It really is. Hopping back to the $10,000,
Oh yeah, that's it, man. Guys, I'm not like your average. You're gonna have a lot of opinions out there to follow. Mix and match the ones that work best for you. It doesn't matter if it's mine or somebody else's. Find whoever kind of vibes your edge and it kind of helps you with your edge, because we all have these natural edges. You're not gonna have the same one as mine. Mine is definitely risk management and safety. I am not a fucking throw all my money into everything and just let it sit there. I'm not. There's a lot of people out there like that. How they will do. I don't know. We'll see in 10 years, right? But so far, the small decisions I make, the hedging decisions, they've worked out for me. They've worked out well. I'm very cautious with my money. And so $10,000, put a third of it into BTC, but I'd even here's okay, I guess, at 59. You could wait for lower. What the fuck's the point? If you really think it's going to where we think it's going, I do. 1% into trading. But in the early on, I would advise against aping. I would advise against, like I said, spending majority of your time studying fundamentals and TA, because then you can look at, even before you ape, you can look at something and have a baseline and sort of an instinct on how it's going to perform. A lot of people don't do this and they end up bag holding. Well, you have to have it. I had it. Remember, I used to write like 40-page threads twice weekly, remember, for years. And I spent a lot of time, and that was the best way I learned. And so no one wants to fucking do it. Just can't, they don't want to work. They don't want to put the time in. But if
Well,
you
now
don't do
now
this,
everybody's a chat GPT threader.
yeah.
There's no originality.
Well, yeah, they're dog shit. So I won't use that. But anyways, if you're not willing to put the time in, you're going to wash out. I don't care if you get lucky in a trade, you're going to wash out. You do not know you have to know more than the people extracting liquidity from this market. You have to know just as much or stay right on their heels. You better know, because there are way better traders than me and CD and and you out there.
Yeah, a
And
lot of
they're way
people.
better and there's always someone better that's going to suck liquidity, that's going to sell down the shitter. There's snipers now. You better have your risk managed well. I think that's the one thing that's have saved me over the years, and I think it'll save others. Right? So you lose here, you lose there, but you win big here, right? And that's why on my page I only talk about things with potential. Why? Here's why. Things of potential, they catch on slowly over time, no matter what. Usually people hop on board over time, no matter what, right? Okay. Because what it is the fadeaway theory. So if I have something with really good potential that I see teams working hard on, all the other there might be 10 other projects somewhere, that are around at the time that are hot and people like and are talking about, but they'll fade away. If they're not legit, they fade away. This other one's highlighted is still working, right? The other thing is, and they always accumulate holders, and the PA generally goes up over time. It's been hard since March, but times will come back again. But the other side of that is they don't go down as fast. If there's an issue, people actually will hang out. They'll dump a little bit, right? Teams might perform buybacks. They will. But if there's an issue, people are a little bit slower to sell. They do somewhat wait for responses. Not always. It depends on the level, right? But like they're more patient. Oh, white paper's delayed? Not a big deal. Okay. This was delayed, understood. So some person sold off a couple ETH. Well, whatever. That's what happens. But they don't go down as fast. You have a chance to not lose all your fucking money. So, it's another way of hedging. They go up slower, they come down. They can come down fast if it's real. If it's like if it's a scam or whatever, a vapor or something really terrible happens. But if it's legit, it comes down slower too than a fucking a lot of things. So I kind of look at it that way. But don't get me wrong, micros can fucking go down 30% and up 100% in like a heartbeat. And when liquidity comes back, you guys who haven't been trading long, you'll see these fucking things rip from 1 million to 100 million inside of 2 days. And we had that sort of for at least 10 or 20 things in between December and March. And we're going to see it again for sure. But, and that's where you can make your X's. But $10,000, study. Nobody likes studying. Got it. Okay. Well, again, I'll come back to this one more time. Can you beat out everybody here without any knowledge or information by aping? So essentially, you might as well walk into the fucking gas station and buy $10,000 worth of scratch offs, because you ain't got no shit to fucking scratch off that shit, right? That's where I'm at with it. And it takes time. Like people fucking think I haven't lost shit. I lost an $80,000 trade in 2021, a $60,000 one in 2021. I was net negative in 2017, 2018, 2019. 2020, I started to scratch by a little bit. 21, a little bit more. Didn't scratch six figures until somewhere in there at the end of the bull market, 21. went down a lot because I held a lot of shit because I still didn't quite know the topping structures, right? And all that. And then the bear market came and I fucking barely grind by the last bear market. I was okay. We had enough, but like I was hedging. I was never fully in. I held on to that money like. And then this bull market's been pretty decent. I've done pretty well. It's all based around long-term thinking and refinement of my methods. And I've talked about this before too. And I'm sorry, MCD, I'm talking probably way too much.
No,
But
you're good. You're good.
I refine my methods all the time. If I see mistakes over a period of time, I always like try and do it differently. And that's hard. You really have to kind of mentally go through pain to do that. Like I had to change my TP methods, right? Because I was with bag holding stuff to zero. And I never nuke a chart. And I never heard a project by nuking charts ever. I don't think I've ever done it. I'll take profits very slowly and very small over a long period of time to make sure that everything, and if it's a healthy chart and a healthy market, it's going to go up either way, right? And so I always give it that chance. I did very well the last couple years, but it's only because I changed my risk management strategy and my TP strategy. I could have been a millionaire and had a bunch of money years ago, but you bag hold. You hold these things, you put in 5 grand, you get, a grand, whatever it is, it goes up 10x, you're holding 40, 30, 20. And then you're like, oh, they got this catalyst coming up. They got this thing coming up. But what I wasn't watching was the volume, the TA structures, even on micros, the sentiment wind down, the energy wind down. I was just listening to the developers, right? We need to include a bunch of factors. Once you start including all the factors, you start to TP better. But it's always important to give projects a chance that are really doing well. But in this market, it's really tough too. But that's what had to change for me. So always be flexible, always be redefining how you do things. Because if I hadn't done that, redefined how I was going to do things. Because in the beginning, I wanted to be liked. I wanted to, hold something from my first investment all the way to $1 billion without ever taking one profit. Well, name one trader who's ever fucking made money doing that. Right? And so it didn't work out well for me, but I wanted to do that. You're idealistic when you first get into this market. You don't quite understand what it is, but this market devours itself, the people devour each other, and people wash out constantly. So you have to ask yourself, are you in this market to stay or are you in this market to go? Because it's more likely going to be the go for most people, but you have to know. I wasn't born with like that ruthless fucking thing that people have, that a lot of people on Wall Street have. I don't have it. I like helping people. I like giving people, but you have to develop it to some degree, or you have to at least, because I have that to a degree when it comes to self-defense and that kind of things, but I don't have it when it comes to finances. So I had to institute a model, like a working model, like a drone-like model I would follow that wasn't dependent on anything but what I wrote. And I did that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, to your point on that, I used to hate that because it took a little while for me to realize that it's a pretty player versus player environment, and then so after because once you realize that, it makes especially if you got friends, you make friends in this space, you make acquaintances, but then after a while, you end up making good friends with a lot of these people, and so there comes like that moral dilemma of, oh my God, if I take 5% off here, well, what are others going to think about me, right? And then there came a time for me after a while where I didn't give a fuck. And it's not to sound like the dickhead, but I started looking at the player versus player. Instead of me taking against my friends, I was taking against the people that wanted the Lambo, that wanted to finance, the $2,400 a month Lambo so they could have some stupid ass lifestyle to impress some ugly chick that they're not going to get with. Right. Those were the people. That was kind of how I kind of started changing my mindset up on. And still to your point as well. Yeah. Not ever wanting to harm a chart and never taking more in a day that would really, set something off or fuck up a daily structure, anything like that, really, any kind of structural damage. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And that's why I just find it so crazy to certain extents. Like I see certain people that are they get blown up on Twitter and they're like, oh my God, this guy is so amazing. And I'm like, you guys are fucking stupid. Like if you took 3 seconds to look to see that this guy that you're, jerking him, telling him he's like the best thing in the world, he's walking away with a lot of y'all's money, and so, yeah. So, kind of flipping back real quick on the $10,000, how I would allocate things, CF, is I'm with you. I wouldn't ape shit. I would not put a dollar into anything up front. What I would do is I would do a few different things. I would ask around. I would network first. I would get around on Telegrams and on Twitter, and I would start using my network and asking the simple questions of who has the best alpha groups, who has the best groups where people are consistently winning, but it doesn't cost a whole lot to be a part of, if anything, right? Because then at least you're giving yourself a little bit. You go in this space empty handed, knowing nobody, not having a fucking clue about the space, not even a Twitter account that you're following. You are going to lose 9.9 out of 10 times in this space. You're going to fucking lose. So how I would do things is I would network around a little bit. I would find those that have just a little bit better of an idea. And, even if it's not an alpha group, you can truly tailor a Twitter. I have a Twitter that I have, my CD account is where I have all my, my acquaintances and my network. That's where I do most of my stuff. But I also have, and it's not an alt account. I don't even fucking tweet off of it. I have an alt account that simply follows no more than 22 accounts with notifications on. Right. And what's funny is that account is directly to my Apple Watch. So anytime there's like a break in development, your boy knows. Sure. I know pretty quickly now. So that's one thing I would do. Yeah. And then to your point on you had mentioned a little bit about like putting very small amounts in, like 1%, but you're competing with a lot of different like bots and shit like that, right? So what I would do, and something I've actually been doing, and I don't want to lie to you guys and tell you I've been doing this for a long time and I've got back tested results and shit, but tell you something I started doing recently as it's kind of started occurring to me. I've kind of figured out a way. So what I did over the last few weeks is I made an Arkham Intelligence account and I made a Dune Analytics account. Okay. All right. So
those are pretty expensive, aren't they?
It depends. It depends on what you're trying to do with them. Both of them offer a free trial up front, but I think the one is like $20 a month and the other one's I think a little bit more than that, but it's not crazy. At the end of the day, if I had to choose, I would choose Dune Analytics over Arkham. Now, Arkham shows some really incredible stuff. I was actually it was funny because somebody on Twitter was like, ETH is going down because of this. So-and-so is selling. And I'm like looking at Arkham and I'm watching the big trades happening. And I'm literally watching Wintermute selling $1 million of WETH. And then 10 seconds later, another, $800,000 by Wintermute. And I'm like, no, you can see who's selling it. So on those, you're able to see what the big money is doing. Regardless, I've stopped listening to what people are saying is happening. Oh, BlackRock's buying EWT. Well, why the fuck is it $1 now? Right? No, and that's not to shit on EWT, but that's just to say, like you said, when they start talking about it, a lot of times they're looking for a little bit of extra liquidity on these positions, right? So for me, it's a whole lot easier to look at the analytics and see what's really happening, right? And if so-and-so is saying this is great, but then I'm looking at Arkham Intelligence and it's showing that the people that said that this is so great is now selling key positions in it. Well, I know that they're full of shit and maybe I should look at following suit. Vice versa. The Dune Analytics is incredible, man. It's pretty much like Reddit for data analytics, and people build these like dashboards that you can see and all these different things. And the more creative you get with your searches, the better, your results generally end up being. And so I'll just, quickly share something that I've been kind of working on because my dumbass finally figured out how to share my fucking screen halfway through. But this is Dune Analytics. And so I typed in here, originally I typed in Ethereum alpha wallets. And so you can see here Ethereum alpha wallets for Maestro and Banana Gun, right? And so you go through and obviously I'm not looking at one freshly made wallet that's hit one play that's on the 100% win ratio, right? Because how do I know that they're not just making new wallets for every time and they're just going to keep doing that? Well, I can't copy trade a fucking wallet that keeps getting fresh, right? That's a smart insider. However, there are some lazy insiders, brother. For instance, you look over here and you go down, you see number of trades, 44, tokens bought, 1. Okay, well, I would back down off of that. However, I go back down here and I see that there's been 5 tokens bought. He did 14 or 16 trades and the motherfucker hasn't lost a trade yet. So what I do is I then go over and I take that wallet address and I put it in my Telegram Maestro bot and I copy trade that. And now to your point earlier of taking a very small percentage of what you're actually copy trading, and I've been doing that. I've been putting
Right.
between like 0.05 and 0.1% in these trades. Now, let me tell you, brother, again, I don't have back testing. I don't have results for anybody that's taking the time to listen. But what I do have is what's worked for me so far. And I can tell you that I started with zero point 0.5, I think zero point 0.5. And I've been doing this method for about a week and a half now. And I'm up to 0.89 ETH, right? Not
Okay.
incredible. Pretty good. Pretty good. I don't do shit. I'll be out having coffee. I'll be out to dinner with my family, whatever. And I get the Telegram, Maestro bot update that there is someone doing some trading. And then so I look at it and I don't question. For instance, one of them that ended up being pretty big was one called MAGA X. And the dude bought this shit at like 80K. So I fucking put I think it was 0.05 into it because I've seen so many of those. It ended up netting me like a fucking 3.5x. I pulled out, just under, 0.2. And but that's how I would do things. Is people number one need to stop listening to what people are just saying on Twitter. Okay. Blindly following people. But if I was allocating at a fresh portfolio, I would do exactly what you said was I wouldn't ape nothing. I wouldn't buy shit. I would do the research. I would find those 5 to 10, in my opinion, or in my scenario. I went through that whole list of Maestro bots and banana bots, and I found the best of each one. I found the best from each one. The best performer from each of those. And on top of that, I made sure that they were trading actively, right? This wasn't like a trade that had been done in like fucking June.
Right.
That was it. And so I only have the two. I'm only following the two best alpha wallets.
And that minimizes risk. If you're following
Fuck yes, it does, man. Because now I'm not, and here's the thing: is I watched. I laughed at this super hard the other day. I watched The Big Short. And on The Big Short, they do a really great job of like breaking, certain things down, like tranches and all these other things like that a lot of people wouldn't understand in like traditional finance terms. And it's silly now, but I forget what it's called. But it was Selena Gomez was the celebrity, and the guy, I forget his name, but he had his PhD in economics. It's super brilliant. And he went on to talk about that what happens when people get used to winning, they're winning, right? They'll win 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a row. And brother, I'm guilty of this more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fucking times. I slap myself on this, but I watched this the other day and I laughed because I'm like, dude, I am so guilty of this and I gotta pump my brakes. Which is, you're on a hot streak, you're winning, you got 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row, and you've been watching that risk management the whole time. Well, you get on that hot streak and you get a little confident, right? And you think that, oh man, I hit 9 out of 9. Fucking, I'm going 10 for 10 for sure. And then so you bet 75% of your portfolio. And then all of a sudden you lose everything that you just made. That in itself is arguably one of the hardest emotions to try to harness is after you've been winning a little bit. Maintaining your normal level of risk management on that 10th or that overconfident one is the hardest thing. And the craziest part of it is, and I swear on this, CF, is every time I've made that big bet, it's been my most confident trade. And that confidence comes from a false sense of bias that I've been doing well. Right. And so, in my point on that is, I've personally, and even this year, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. I've even set myself back. I was laughing because a couple days ago, like a week ago, I had messaged you and I was like, bro, I'm fucking killing it on futures, dude. I've like 5x my portfolio or whatever, 4x'd it. And I fucking laughed because I messaged you. I'm like, well, I wonder how long it's going to take for me to lose every bit of it. And it was like, and you're like, well, this is when you need to calm the fuck down. And I'm like, and I knew. And while I didn't lose the whole thing, I lost like 30% of what I made. And I'm like,
Yeah,
motherfucker, like, because you know it's going to happen at some point. But
yeah,
had I just kept my 5% risk tolerance the whole ride, I was doing, and
yeah. That's you needed the experience. That's all it
yeah,
is. I liquidated. I think I liquidated in total three futures accounts worth like 40K a piece back in 21, 22. And what I learned is that I was doing fine without it. I was doing good without it. And so I just limited it altogether because I'm already learning on so many different levels of what I'm doing, a spot trade and TA and fundamentals, and everything else. I really don't have time to implement futures, and I got no business being in them. And so as a person, you have to have limitations and know your limitations. Okay. Even if that's not a limitation of yours, do you have time to refine that craft as well when you're already profitable in other areas?
right.
And it's smart, right? And so I limited it. I just fucking after the third liquidation of the account, I was like, I'm done. And that's been a couple of years, and I just don't do it. I spot trade and I make money doing that. And yep, I'll stay away from the leverage. It's just not fucking. I don't know, man.
Well,
You
and
win on
and that
leverage, I'll win 9 trades. The entries will be great, but then there's that one trade gets away from me where I get negative, and I just hold on to that fucking negative
man, well,
trade,
and as
waiting
it's
for a
negative,
bounce,
you're
and
thinking,
then
well, I was 9 out of 9, so I mean, I know my hunch is on the point, and then it just
yeah,
liquidation threshold.
yeah. Leverage trading is not something I do. Um, and that's what it's meant for. There are good traders who are great at it, and they should be leverage trading.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not one of them.
There was his name's Aporia. I think his name's Aporia OX or OX Aporia. I don't know, but he made a tweet that was that people were talking about leverage in a bad way. And
Yeah.
he was like, look, it shouldn't be looked at like that. It's used as a tool for people that understand when it needs to be used. And 5 years in the space, buddy, I don't have a problem saying I'm not a fucking day trader. This is not my career. Like
Yeah.
I've done well by holding on to the fundamental plays and things like that. And we're getting close to where I gotta get ready to get off of here pretty soon. But
Yeah.
um, for example, we have had a few pretty strong fundamental projects that have shown in our space. Destra's one of them. I mean, had we completely jumped ship on on our fundamental strategy and went all memes,
Mhm.
you and I would have missed out on a pretty nice move on Destra.
10 mil to 500. Yeah.
Fuck, dude.
So,
I mean, it's a great project, and it's one of those that had had we switched bias completely,
mhm.
we wouldn't have even been able to capitalize on a 2x or a 3x or 4x on that thing. Um,
And
and
that's
go ahead.
no finish.
Uh, it's no one knows, but the more time you spend in the space, right? As soon as we read that document, I know me and you were bouncing shit. I'm like, dude, we're
Yeah.
like, what the fuck what are we doing here? Like, I think this is a pretty good bet we need to be in on, and
Yeah.
it takes a while to refine
Mhm.
that craft, and to my point there is had I not kind of
Mhm.
slowed down a little bit towards the beginning of this year, and you and I bounce things off each other a good little bit, and we
Right.
were both just like, man, it's been a while since we've seen a pretty good
Mhm.
fundamentally strong play, and then it
Yeah.
hits, and we both kind of know like,
Mhm.
this looks like a really good play. So I think more people um will get adapt, and they'll be able to find
Yeah.
and tailor their own system. But
Mhm.
until they have an idea, I would suggest a few of the things that both CF and I talked about. If you're going to play with your money, play with a small bit. Even though ETH has higher gas fees than Solana,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I do genuinely believe that ETH will be around longer, and that there is less bullshit, scammy motherfuckers
Yeah.
on ETH. To me, Sol is like the BNB of last cycle.
Right.
It's like the Binance chain of last cycle. And it was funny because it was doing well, but everyone knew that every project on there was going to eventually just
Well,
absolutely go nuts.
everyone would say it was going to overtake this and overtake
Yeah.
that. And the
Yeah.
reality is it can't exist long term because at some point, so many people are going to lose so much money. There's going to be massive complaints and, and regulations and this and that. But I'm not going to get into that because a lot of people get upset when I mention that.
Yep.
They get real upset. But here's one thing I know about when I really review a fundamental project and I talk about it, and I get people in the comments more than one shit talking the speculatory nature of it. It's been a good indicator that that project is going to do well, especially the last 2 years. Um, and over time you develop this sixth sense about projects. Like, okay, you can just when you're in a room with someone genuine and you can just fucking tell after a while. That's how it is with developers too. And a lot of developers I'm highly speculative of or highly distrusting of. And okay, I hear you out. It looks good conceptually here. There's a few holes here you need to fix, and I'll tell them there's holes here. Fix those, and we'll talk and let's see how you guys do this if you can do it. And but with Destra, he talked about so many things he was going to do at the beginning. Remember, we talked to him. We were like, okay, what's this project about, and where
Yep.
is it going, and he had so much fucking goals and information and like crazy shit he said he was going to do. At the beginning, me and CD were like, I don't know if this fucking guy could do all this. Like, and this is how it goes for people. Then they sell, they get scared, whatever. But over time, even then, he had not proven himself to be anything but legitimate, right? But over time, he just fucking continued to crush those things that he said he was going to do. And some of these projects, they don't have VCs, they don't have anything like that. They're just, they're just good, and they want to start from the beginning. I don't think a lot of these developers want to be indebted to VCs. So anyway, that's kind of a good indicator for me is when someone's shit talking in the comments. And I had that with another one that I'm holding now, and I haven't. It's kind of a low key one, and I'm still. This team still has much to prove, of course. So don't take this as a hint to go out and buy it. But Quantum Fusion, well, I had that early on too, and now it's up to like 9 million. No one's looking at it. It's at all-time highs, while the rest of the market just sits around pulling its dick. While the team is putting out content and showing code like constantly, right? And so that's another one that was people were talking bad about that I expect don't go out and buy this because it could go to fucking zero. And I really mean that. I put my risk into it at a lower market cap. So, but I expect it to do well, very well. If it's any indicator past in my judgment of things in the past, I expect it to run like the other ones I've called that have done 30 to 40 to 50 because you kind of get this inherent, what I'm talking about, CD. You kind of know all these things are clicking together and fluid, and you get the no bullshit from the team, and
You get the perfect storm.
Yeah, and it's not quite like it was a desync, but it takes time to get there too. It takes months and months to get there. The desync, they did it faster than anybody I've ever seen, but which means they're competent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
okay.
I mean, I'm excited as fuck on that, on a side note, because I feel like we know what we hold there, and I'm super excited. But dude, I appreciate you coming on. I know that you and I have been trying to get here for a little bit. So shout out to everyone that's been kind of waiting for our third episode. We really appreciate you guys. Yeah, yeah. We're
Wednesday. Let's be Friday.
Yep. So we're going to do our very best to try to start doing things bi-weekly. Please understand that CF and I have very radically different schedules. We live on opposite ends of the country, and we're just busy. We're busy, but I truly, I mean, I can only speak for myself here, but doing these, not only does it help me kind of step back and look at the market in maybe a different way, or just kind of talking about it, sometimes even has me back up and say, well, maybe I should start doing things a little bit different because, he's got a different game plan that works for him at times, and vice versa, but this is one of those things where, I do know that both CF and I are in agreement here that our space needs to have more people that are willing to be a little more transparent with what they're doing, but not just in a way of like selfish endeavors, right? Like, we genuinely believe that our space needs a pick me up in the right way. We do not believe completely that the right people are really leading our space.
And I'm very proud of like me and CD here doing this because we're actually just this is non-scripted. There's no agenda here. We're just fucking vomiting down our thoughts. And there are honest thoughts about the market, how we do things. And they're not perfect, as you can see. And we're not perfect. We're here for a long time and we do well over time. Um, but like when I talk about, micro caps, I don't want you guys to invest in anything that's going to hurt you or that you don't think is sound. Because the reality is, if my conviction does not have to match yours, if I'm right, it's going to go up with or without you. I'm not looking for exit liquidity. I'm never looking for exit liquidity. That's why I try and keep things educational. I give my opinion. I say, hey, this can do this. It's risky. It has this. I try and level people like, hey, man, this is the logical way I'm looking at this. If you don't see it that way, please don't put your money in here because if it is any good, it's going to go up anyways. It is, right? And so it's you that's the problem with exit liquidity. Anyone pumping and dumping for exit liquidity, it's just either they're too new to understand what they're doing or they're genuinely malicious because that's the reality of this space. If it is good, it will go up. If it is, even if it's for a short time riding a narrative, if it's first mover, has an edge, has some use case, has some tech behind it, some real building behind it, maybe it's not mass adoptable, so it only is going to last 2 years, right? We know this, but they're trying to get mass adopted, right? And we don't know how far that's going to go. It's going to go up, right? These things are going to be worthwhile over time, but you don't know how far they're going to go. That's so I'm proud of the way we talk on here. That's always the way I've been. I've never been someone. I have a real inability to kiss ass or to like talk in circles. I just don't have time for it, and I get really I think it's through patient care through the years. I get really not short, but like kind of impatient with people because they really don't have their own best interest in their hearts and minds. They don't understand how to do things that are in their best interest. And when I give them advice, it's short and quick. And then they're looking for something for some fucking guru book or something like all these steps. No, no, man. You just got to know yourself and follow a few things, and you're good to go for the rest of your life. And so that's why I'm short and that's why I'm quick and that's why I'm just trying to keep it logical. But a lot of people really did. I think they do CD. I think they need this constant reassurance that they're doing things correctly and that they need this. They think they need these fucking daily videos of self-help things to live their own lives. It's bullshit. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, um, our goal, I know our main goal in this is to provide just insights from personal experiences that we've kind of gone
Yeah.
through. And then
And it
there's
has
going to
no agenda to it.
Yeah, and then there's going to be obviously key things that that I come up with throughout the
Yeah.
talk that we can just talk and highlight on. So yeah, please understand that there's never going to be an agenda. There's never, there's nothing pre-scripted here. I'll show you all my shitty ass workspace. There ain't nothing here. I got nothing I'm
No.
going off of.
Yeah. And the two projects we talked about, like we like them. You don't have to like them. You don't have to buy anything.
Oh,
I like them. I think they're going to do well. But and based on history, I was thinking about doing this CD. Sorry, I interrupted you, man. I
no,
didn't
you're
mean
good.
to. I was thinking about doing a track record thing for 2024, going back and talking about all the projects I talked about and seeing which ones did well and get kind of a mean average percentage. Typically, if you buy things that I talk about, they do more than not, they do well, right? That's why my page isn't so hyped up and I'm not fucking constantly posting stuff, is because there's enough shit out there to talk about that I think it's gonna do well. Right. But anyways, go ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
and even with that too, you're gonna have a selective group of clowns that come through and say, "Well, what about this one? What about this?" And at the end of the day, it's what a lot of people don't understand, and it's because they put money in, they put their money in, right? I get it to an extent, but you got to have some kind of personal responsibility when you're investing in these. I have fumbled generational wealth on
Me too.
coins because somebody had said, "Hey, I don't like the way this looks." And I've sold the bag and that thing has gone on to fucking run. And at the end of the day, it's not on them. It was on me to say, you know what? My bias agrees with that. I made money. I'm good with it. Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they just have this such a separation from responsibility and personal responsibility on these. And it's just so much easier for them to say, oh, well, this motherfucker said it was going to do this. And this
That's
guy
why I
said,
would say shit like that. That's
yep,
why I say this is my thesis.
Yep.
but you can lose still because I lose still. And that's why I don't get like shit like other people. It's
Yep.
because not because I might talk about the same things as other people that aren't fucking terrifically, do things a lot differently than I do. It's because I don't fucking tell people, hey, go buy this now, buy this dip now,
Yep.
buy this buy now. Oh, they're having this catalyst, it's gonna mega moon, it's gonna go 100x. Well, how
Well,
ask
and that,
yourself, how the fuck do they know that?
exactly. Right. And a lot of that again comes from personal experiences and kind of having
Mhm.
to humble yourself out after a big loss or something. I
Yep.
mean, it fucking happens. That's how you learn the lessons. You don't learn the lessons from winning, right? You get to enjoy the gratification. The lessons come from getting your shit stomped out. And in this space, take you about a week to get there, right?
Yep.
So, I always appreciate having you on,
Thank you,
CF.
brother.
Our conversations usually are just sensational, not to be too biased there, but yeah, to our viewers, we can't appreciate, we can't thank you guys enough. We are so appreciative. The only thing we'll ask is if you've made it this far, share the video. We're going to start doing our very best to start putting out at least minimum one a week. But I
Mhm.
think both of us really want to try to start doing bi-weekly market updates.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so too. Just talking about what's going on, no script.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there needs to be more of that. There's not enough. So, personally, I'm going to be trying to push this out a whole lot. So, to anybody that sees this, the only thing we're ever going to ask is for you to share and maybe like the video on the platform that it's on. That's
Yeah.
all. We're not after money. We're not after anything else. We just want to get our thoughts out there, and that's really, I
And
think, where
don't
we're
buy
going.
what the fuck we talk about.
Yeah, yeah. Don't buy her shit. I'm gonna make a nice little disclaimer at the beginning.
Well, but please understand, lastly, guys, just get some time and experience in your belt, and you will understand the space in ways you never thought possible. You will see the holes in it that you never seen. You'll see the good in it that you've never seen. You need time and experience. So remember that.
Yeah, 100%. Brother, thank you again.
All right, brother.
Always
Talk
good having you
soon.
on. We'll get together here in the next couple
You
days.
too, man. Yeah, have a good day.
See you,
Bye.
bro.